My name is Robert Zetkowski, 387 Schwartz Road, Lancaster, New York. I'm a veteran. I'm a disabled veteran 100%. And I'd like to speak on this. Can you hear me, Brent? No? How about, can you hear me now? Yeah. Last year, the board members that were on last year and the superintendent, they voted in our tax break. That was plenty of gift to the veterans. Is there a lot of veterans here tonight? Nope, just one veteran? Thank you. Thanks for coming. I go to VA hospital at least 3 times a week. I've asked other veterans about this red square in the parking lot. They say whoever came up with it, it was a great idea. But thinking about it, it's not a good idea. I don't know how much time you spend thinking about what you're doing. One spot is every school. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry, I'm not putting you down, but nobody really thought this out. I was thinking, as another board member was saying, there's something else we could do. We could put a small monument by the flag saying those who we lost, students that we lost in the wars, and we have lost plenty. When I went to school here, a lot of my friends died in Vietnam. So I just want to thank the board members for giving us our tax break last year. And when I was on the board, I didn't see this. We never had arguments like this. I see a cloud over this board. What's going on here? I'm embarrassed. I really am. I can't believe what's going on here. We got one of the best superintendents around. This Lancaster, people are wanting Lancaster because of that man right there, Dr. Bell. And I wish people would respect him a little more. A lot more. Thank you.
I am. I just need to get organized. All right. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I want to start off by saying that I consider myself extremely lucky. Not many people get to meet or thank our military heroes, but I was raised by one. Both my parents, my godfather, many uncles, many cousins, and friends are currently enlisted or veterans of varying ranks. My family and friends willingly signed up to do what others do not have the courage or the physical ability to do: defend our country. These are selfless people who are willing to sacrifice their lives for us. They do this because they love our country and want to preserve our freedoms. I attended the last board meeting, and if I was able to speak during the public hearing, before needing to call at 3 that day, I would have. After going home and thinking about it, which was recommended by the school board in the past meeting, I am no less disgusted today than I was a month ago. I am appalled by the excuses providing regarding this spot. Mrs. Christopher was able to secure donations for the supplies, volunteers to paint the spots, and even had someone willing to pay the maintenance staff's salary if volunteers were not allowed to do this. There's just been so many, it's just been disrespectful. And you've disrespected many of the military members of our community. The first thing that we have to, if we do this for veterans, we may have to do this for other groups. No. I think it's poor judgment to compare our veterans who fought for our freedoms to other groups. Veterans have done more for our country than any other group and are treated very poorly by our government and civilians for their contributions. Student parking at the high school is highly sought after, and we shouldn't take a space away from the students. Well, this spot should be in the front of the school and therefore not taking a space away from the students. And even if the high school spot needed to be figured out more, you could have moved forward with the other schools. There could be a liability issue with painting the spots. I understand that, and I know that needs to be looked into, but Mike or Jamie could have had that done by the end of the week, as was suggested. Another option would have been to have volunteers sign a waiver. Painting and maintaining the spots would be the maintenance department's job, and we shouldn't add to their workload. You have volunteers willing to do this work, and someone even offering to pay the wages of the maintenance staff if necessary. Also, wouldn't this be a great civics project for some of our students? We should wait and see if other schools are going to do this first. Why? Why would you wait instead of paving the way? This should be a board goal for next year. This is not a goal I want my elected school board to be working on when there are many other issues in these schools that need to be addressed. Painting it red could bring back negative memories to our veterans. This is ludicrous. People wear red to remember everyone deployed, RED. Team Red, White, and Blue, a veteran and civilian running club, has a red shirt. The Marine flag is red. And also, the Marine Corps Marathon, which has a lottery system to get into with over 25,000 people trying to get into this, would not have given me a long sleeve red participant shirt or a medal with a big red ribbon and a red globe on it if this was a trigger to our veterans. Next one, veterans are not complaining about having a spot, and it would mean more if it were student driven. Come on, you would rather be reactive instead of proactive? Let's get down to this. This board is divided, and any ideas from Mrs. Christopher or Mrs. Dipchinsky are going to be turned down. I find it remarkable that this idea is meeting many ridiculous excuses solely because of the person who expressed it. If a complaint is what you need to move forward with this, mark this as my formal complaint. Our veterans are deserving of any and every recognition we can provide to them. Unless you have ever walked in a soldier's shoes, you have no clue what they have had to deal with. None of you are veterans. None of you signed up to put your lives on the line for our country. If not for them, many of you wouldn't be here today and have the luxuries you enjoy. Right now, there are thousands of soldiers deployed, many not knowing if they will live to see tomorrow. Yet here you sit in the comforts of Lancaster, New York, putting up every excuse you can think of to put a stop to this recognition. Put aside your differences and make it happen.
My name is James Wire. I'm the commander of, as they said, Lieutenant Matt Urban, VFW post on Walden Avenue. I also am a disabled veteran. I totally disagree with Bob for what he said, that he's happy. I'm not here to argue. I'm not anything political. I just think you people have gone totally out of your way of just to have a parking spot. It's unbelievable. Some of you people have an agenda that's totally mind-boggling. As to face Mr. Sage, if he needs to get petitions, I could give him hundreds of petitions saying that we would love to have it, just to keep calm. For Mr. Uteg saying that he thinks because his father and grandfather and great-grandfather was in the service, he realizes what it is. If you've never been in contact or combat, please don't insult us by saying you know what it is. We are veterans. We are asking for nothing. If it's such a big item that you cannot give one and set aside your differences, shame on you. I don't want to make it political. I'm trying not to, but it hurts to think what we do as our VFW post. We have giving to every donated our building. We do it for the marching band of our school. We give to the wrestling school when they have to raise funds. We gave it to the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, seniors. We don't care who we give it to. We give it to put the community together. Right now, it looks like you're trying to put everybody, and I'm talking about everybody. Everybody has the agenda. Let's get together, shake hands, put our differences aside, and just put in one. It isn't going to kill anybody. Thank you.
Hi. I speak to you as a 21-year veteran of Lancaster Central School District. I've probably taught in this school for 2 decades. I'm a social studies teacher, currently teaching AP psychology. It's been a privilege to work here and work with many of your children. And I'm also a proud Air Force veteran. I served as a staff sergeant on active duty, as well as the National Guard and the Reserve in times of peace and in times of war. I'd like to just address some of the concerns that were brought out in the Lancaster B. Some people indicated, for instance, that there was a concern with student parking. This has been mentioned already before, but maybe another way of looking at it. I share the view of the board member that talked about putting the students first and making sure that we use these as teachable moments. And one of the things I would state is the fact that with regard to student parking being at a premium, the students do know that parking at the high school is a privilege that they actually do literally pay for, and they are not guaranteed of getting this spot. I would ask that we use this as a teachable moment and let the students know that we as a community and as a school have our priorities straight and promote the values that we share regarding respect and reverence that we give those who serve. Regarding insurance concerns and possible liability, I'm not a lawyer. I know some of you are, but my thought would be that the community and groups in school would risk the chance of being considered shunning volunteerism. And if that were the case, then we'd have to be really concerned with all the guest speakers that we've had in the past that have made our classes so much richer for their presence, volunteering their time to come in and provide what they've learned to the students. Also, I'd also be concerned with the parents that have volunteered time and time again to make this school district great. They come of their own free will, on their own time, and take the risks as they are when they step foot on the district's property and serve us well, and we appreciate their efforts. I would also like to address the painting and maintaining of the spot with regard to the maintenance department's jobs and whether or not we want to add to their workload. Again, I would suggest that we use this as a teachable moment and indicate that the students often learn through observational learning, and this would be a great opportunity for the staff to model what and who we truly support based on our priorities. Regarding the tax break, I appreciate any tax break I can get. Anybody that knows me will tell you that. However, I think we also need to understand that the tax break, while appreciated by many, doesn't really address a safety concern. And if we were to provide a parking spot for a veteran towards the front of the building, besides simply being a matter of showing respect, it would also be a practical situation in that we would lessen the risk of any elderly veteran taking a long walk, for instance, through the parking lot in the middle of the day in the wintertime and reaching the front of the school so they could serve our children better and pass on the lessons they've learned in life. I'd hate to see an elderly person or even someone even younger take a spill in the parking lot. As much effort is put into making sure this is a safe property, they would run less of a risk if they were physically closer to the building. I've had guest speakers in my global studies classes in the past that were in their 80s, and I've always encouraged them to park as close as they can to the front door. And in certain times of day, that's rather difficult because parking is at such a premium between the staff, the faculty, and the students. So I would simply make it a practical matter and maybe even avoid future litigation. I'd hate for the district to be sued by someone that fell, broke a hip, and then said, well, if I were a little bit closer to the building, maybe that wouldn't have happened. And then the last part about whether or not we should wait for the actions of other school districts. I'm really concerned with basically communicating to students that maybe we should put things off. I always tell my students that procrastination is not something you want to get involved in. You want to take things head on and do them as expeditiously as possible, especially when the risks are low. If the risks are high and we're talking about, if we're talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis and making an expeditious decision resulting in World War III, that's one thing, but this might be something different. I simply scribbled down a comment on my paper that says when the risks are rather meet, when the risks are low, the cost of hesitation could be a whole lot higher. And I speak again to to the safety concerns that I just voiced. I guess that's about it. I really do appreciate all the service that you provide this community, and I don't question anyone's patriotism, and I speak for no one but myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. I think pretty much my fellow brothers here in arms covered a lot, and I'm going to try not to touch on those same points again, but I believe Lancaster has a population of 10,279. I have a population of 179,000, which covers all of western New York. In Erie County alone of 62,000, which I think those same veterans, there's a high number that reside here in Lancaster that will decide your next election position. So I think to be disrespectful and prolong a parking position for disabled vets who truly need them, when I've been in your parking lot on several occasions throughout the year, more than 1 year, and have never seen every one of those handicapped parking spots full. And if you're charging students to park, I'll pay for every veteran to park here for the next 5 years. And this is to you, Ms. McKay. I understand your brother was a Vietnam veteran, but I think for you to say he's ruined, shame on you. Because I myself, a combat vet, 10 years, Ground Zero, Bosnia, and served for the initial invasion in Iraq in 03 to 04, Purple Heart, hit with a roadside bomb, I'd be the last person to say I'm ruined. And I think you should ask your brother that too, because I'm pretty sure he'd be ashamed. Last year, Western New York Heroes handed out over $130,000 to our men and women here in Western New York who needed financial assistance because our government failed. What has Lancaster done but prolong a decision on a parking spot that a bunch of monkeys can decide in 5 minutes? It doesn't take that much work and effort to put a handicapped or to put a disabled veterans parking spot in your parking lot. And I mind you that Home Depot and Lowe's already beat you to it. And I believe as a board you're supposed to lead, so stop following and start leading. I also, I know it's been touched on already with the red paint, and everyone's afraid of veterans, the way we're going to react. If you think red paint is going to cause us to explode, blow up your schools, or come in shooting, once again, you're sadly mistaken, and you're ignorant to what veterans are really standing for, and what we've done for your ignorance to be what it is today. There was a statement made earlier about a goal. You're looking to reach a goal. Last time I checked, reaching a goal meant, let's see how many kids we can get to graduate at the highest level each year. That's a goal. Making a goal to be a decision based on a parking spot, that's not a goal. So I'm not really sure what your goals are, but I will also do this. I am a president and a founder, and I make thousands of dollars a year in decision making. Let me rephrase that, because I make decisions based on thousands of dollars a year to our community, okay? And we can solve in an hour and a half what has clearly taken you guys more than a month, 2 months to decide on. Maybe you guys should come to one of my board meetings and see how a board is truly run. Thank you.
I am the Magistrale, 92, Lancaster High School graduate. Daughter is Lancaster alumni as well. My son is currently a sophomore here at Lancaster High School. I'm a 22-year, 90% disabled Iraq War veteran. My children were attending school here while I was in Iraq. My son, quite younger at the time, my daughter, younger as well. For them, trying to stay focused on school was quite challenging when they're worried about mom and where she is and what's going on. Hearing the stories back at home, hearing what's happening to our veterans that were overseas. A simple sign outside might have had some comfort to them, Doesn't have to be red paint. Doesn't have to be maintenance. It could be maintenance free. A simple metal sign put out front, maybe $100, whatever. I'll dig in my pocket in the low income that I make and find that money to pay for that sign. A piece of metal put in the parking lot could have caused my child or someone else's child a little bit of soothing, seeing that their parents were recognized. Today, by the grace of God, is a good day for me. I can't say that for everybody, and everybody can't say that for themselves or what tomorrow will bring. So I got 5 minutes. I hope I only took one of your time. I hope you guys can think about this and reconsider and understand that it is a simple decision and it doesn't need to be thought about. I think your answers are right here in front of just a very few veterans from your very own community. That's all.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me? First of all, I wanted to speak to the board with regards to them arriving at the approved budget as formatted. It was an arduous process that began in December, and I wanted to commend them at arriving at a budget that I believe is going to be quite palatable to the community, so I commend you for that. What I did want to speak to was the budget process per se. We were encouraged as a community the policy with regards to this parking issue for veterans. My dad was a veteran of the Korean War, and I had two uncles that were prisoners of war in World War II. So I have extreme respect for veterans. However, being a part of this board as long as I did for the 3 years that I served on it, and I commend Mrs. Christopher for her desire to show veterans the respect that she did. In fact, Mrs. Christopher was my vice president as I served as president a few years back, and we worked well together. And I want to commend her on that. However, because I was on this board, I know through all the various executive sessions that we held that this society is very litigious that we live in. And I think it's prudent that the board step back a little bit, not necessarily look to implement this decision in July, but to make sure that you work with your council, to make sure that things are done properly. You know, there's other groups that are out there that they talked about. Perhaps pregnant mothers would like a spot. That's another, issue that you might have to raise as a result of this. So I just think it's prudent that the board step back, take a look at it, knowing that you live in a litigious society. Make sure you got your T's crossed and the I's dotted. Okay, thank you.
Do I need to state my name again? Can you hear me?
You have to talk loud.
I'm not a loud talker. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Name's Mary Donhouse. I live at 45 West Home Road, and I'm here to speak about the veteran parking spot. I don't know, Mr. McKay, if you know I'm a veteran. I'm going to tell you what a veteran is. Whether they're active duty, discharged, retired, or reserve, it's someone who at one point in his or her life wrote a blank check to the United States of America for an amount of up to and including his or her life. I am a veteran. I served 23 years. I have seen what you would never see in your life. I am quite dumbfounded that you 5 board members came up with some lame excuses at the last meeting as to why there shouldn't be a parking spot. We are talking one parking spot at each school, but I didn't expect anything else. Maybe you don't realize you didn't just offend me, but all veterans. And please, do not insult us by calling us a group. We are a unit, and until you put on a uniform, you would not and could not understand the bond that the military has. You sit up there, expect this community to accept what you say. Last I knew, we live in a democracy. You were elected to work with the community. Boy, did I find out differently. I feel you 5 should take a walk through the VA hospital. Look at the heartache, the maim, the dying, the end results of war. These are the true warriors. And maybe, just maybe, you would open your eyes. As you sit there and stare at me, I wish I could lash out and tell you what I really feel, but you are not worthy of that. In fact, I am here to speak up for my brothers and sisters in the military. You have displayed conduct that made me feel that you are superior. There's only one superior being, and that is God. With that, I am damn proud of my service. I did what you five did not do, defend this country. I held a dying soldier who bled red. Have you? To all my brothers and sisters, I commend your service. I come here to say what I needed to say and don't want to hear any excuses. You sit up there and tell people what you think, criticize them. Don't do this to this veteran or anyone else who's a veteran in here. As a side note, I've had better conversations and disagreements with colonels and generals who show much more respect than you five. Thank you.
Hello. I have a couple of questions regarding social media. First question is, does the district have their own official Facebook and Twitter accounts? And my second question is, what is the district's policy on the use of employees' personal social media accounts during working hours? Do we have a policy in writing, or are we developing a policy regarding that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Someone else, Mrs. Christopher, this is.
I know.
Our meeting is over. I'm looking, 14.0, we don't have any future presentations planned. 15.0, could I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second on that motion? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? So moved. Thank you very much for coming. Our next meeting is the annual budget.